Everyone is waiting for the next cycle, staring at charts hoping for another pump. But what if I told you the cycle isn't coming back? Because adoption won't crawl slowly this time. Behind the curtain, hidden corridors have been running in silence. Institutions don't chase hype. They don't need 4-year cycles. They rehearse rails that move real liquidity. And they're waiting for one thing: the legal trigger. When clarity arrives, adoption won't rise step by step. It will erupt overnight. Liquidity won't spread evenly across thousands of coins. It will bend toward the few rare wallets already inside the rich list. So don't blink. Stay until the end of this video, because you're about to see why placement matters more than price, and why, when hidden corridors open, you'll either be inside the flow or swept away by it. Part 1. Retail noise drowns signal. Scroll through social feeds, and what do you hear? Noise. Meme coins, pump calls, influencers fighting over charts. Retail celebrates every candle as if it changes destiny. But noise doesn't move liquidity. It hides the signal. The signal is silent. It isn't on Twitter threads or YouTube hype. It's in settlement corridors, tested by banks that never post memes. It's in compliance systems rehearsed in silence, waiting for clarity to flip green. Retail thinks volume comes from chatter. Institutions know volume comes from corridors. That's why the noise grows louder, because the crowd senses something, but they can't see the rails. The You Are Rich list shows who looked past the noise. The XRP Rich list proves which wallets already placed inside corridors where liquidity must flow. Noise excites the crowd. Signal rewards the patient. And when adoption erupts overnight, the noise will vanish, but the signal will remain. Part 2. Hidden corridors. Rehearse in silence. While retail argues over charts, institutions don't argue. They rehearse. Behind closed doors, corridors are already running. Test payments move across rails no influencer talks about. Liquidity shifts silently through sidechains and permission domains. Each rehearsal fine-tunes compliance, speed, and scale. To retail, it looks like nothing is happening. Prices drift, headlines fade, cycles drag on. But in hidden corridors, adoption is not speculation. It's practice. And practice builds pressure. Every silent test is a step closer to the switch. Every corridor rehearsed in the shadows is a pipeline waiting for clarity. When the law flips green, these silent flows don't start. They merge into public rails all at once. The You Are Rich list reveals who understood that silence isn't absence, it's preparation. The XRP Rich list records which wallets are already positioned where hidden liquidity must eventually surface. Silence doesn't mean stillness. Silence means rehearsal. And when rehearsal ends, the curtain lifts and the flood begins. Part 3. Institutions don't chase price. Retail wakes up every morning asking, did the chart move? A green candle makes them euphoric. A red candle makes them panic. For retail, price is everything. But institutions don't chase price. They move liquidity. They don't care if XRP trades at 50 cents or $5. What matters is whether the rails settle instantly, whether compliance holds, whether liquidity corridors are wide enough for quadrillions. Price is noise. Utility is signal. Retail bets on pumps. Institutions rehearse settlements with banks, treasuries, and payment networks. Their decisions are measured not in charts, but in corridors already hardened by years of testing. That's why adoption doesn't look like hype. It looks invisible until the switch flips. And when it does, liquidity bends to rails that work, not coins that pumped. The You Are Rich list marks who stopped chasing candles and focused on corridors. The XRP Rich list proves which wallets already sit in the path where liquidity must travel. Institutions don't chase waves, they build the ocean. And when the ocean rises, price doesn't lead, it follows. Part 4. Utility. Not speculation drives adoption. Speculation built the first wave of crypto. Retail chased promises, white papers, and hype. Prices spiked, then crashed again and again. But speculation doesn't scale. It excites a crowd. It never carries a system. Adoption doesn't come because people dream of $10 coins. Adoption comes when rails actually solve trillion-dollar problems, moving money faster, cheaper, safer, across borders and networks that SWIFT can't reach. Institutions don't ask, will this token moon? They ask, will this ledger settle quadrillions without breaking? That's the question that defines survival. Utility drives adoption because utility forces demand. And when demand bends, it doesn't spread evenly. It compresses into the narrow corridors built to handle it. The You Are Rich list shows who recognize that hype fades but rails remain. The XRP Rich list confirms exactly which rare wallets align with corridors where adoption can't help but flow. Speculation screams loud. Utility whispers. But when clarity flips, the whisper becomes a roar, and adoption erupts overnight. Part 5. Legal clarity transforms rehearsal. Institutions don't gamble. They don't move trillions on rumor. That's why corridors, sidechains, and permission domains have run quietly in rehearsal. Flows tested, contracts signed, compliance hardened, yet all behind the curtain. What are they waiting for? Not hype, not charts. One thing only: legal clarity. When the law aligns, rehearsal becomes obligation. Institutions don't ask, should we? They are required to move. The switch flips from practice to performance. Overnight, silent corridors merge with public rails. Liquidity doesn't trickle, it detonates. To retail, it will look sudden, impossible to predict. But to institutions, it was scheduled years in advance. They built the pipes, they tested the flow, and they waited for the statute that makes everything official. The You Are Rich list shows who understood clarity isn't about words, it's about triggers. The XRP Rich list proves which wallets already sit where liquidity must travel once rehearsal ends. Law doesn't suggest. Law commands. And when clarity commands, the market doesn't ramp up. It erupts. Part 6. Overnight rails merge to mainnet. Rehearsals never stay hidden forever. Sidechains, permission corridors, closed loops, they exist for one reason: to prepare rails before the world sees them. The moment clarity strikes, those private rehearsals don't continue in silence. They merge. Overnight, liquidity tested behind closed doors flows into the public XRPL mainnet. What looked empty yesterday becomes crowded tomorrow. Volumes that never touched the open ledger flooded all at once. Adoption doesn't walk, it leaps. Retail thinks merging will take years, but institutions don't migrate slowly. They flip systems live because the corridors are already built. The transition is not gradual, it is instant. The You Are Rich list shows who knew sidechains were pipelines, not distractions. The XRP Rich list records which wallets already sit at the choke points where liquidity bends once the merge happens. Adoption doesn't wait for retail to notice. It happens overnight, and by morning, the rails are already live.
Part 7. Liquidity floods narrow corridors. Liquidity doesn't spread like rain across a field. It doesn't water everything evenly. When quadrillions move, they follow rails, and rails are narrow by design. Institutions don't build thousands of corridors. They build a few that work. That means when adoption erupts, liquidity doesn't touch every coin or every wallet. It bends into the narrow paths engineered for scale. To retail, this feels unfair. Why doesn't value spread to every project? Because value isn't charity, it's gravity. It falls where the rails are strongest, the corridors proven, the compliance assured. And those corridors are few. The You Are Rich list shows who placed early, waiting in those narrow funnels. The XRP Rich list proves which rare wallets sit at the choke points where liquidity must pass. Billions may watch from the sidelines, but only those already inside the corridors will feel the flood. Because when liquidity moves, it doesn't drizzle, it drowns.
Part 8. Rare wallets hold choke points. Every system has choke points, narrow passages that control the entire flow. Highways have toll gates, rivers have dams, markets have rare wallets. When quadrillion-scale liquidity floods, it doesn't pass through 1 million retail wallets. It bends toward a fraction, rare holders who already sit inside the proven corridors. These wallets aren't accidents. They are placement, conviction, and time carved permanently into the ledger. That's why the U are rich list matters. It marks who stayed positioned while the crowd chased noise. The XRP rich list proves, wallet by wallet, exactly where liquidity must travel once rails merge. To the crowd, these rare wallets look like statistics. To institutions, they're infrastructure. Choke points that determine where value settles. And here's the truth. When the flood arrives, the few who hold choke points won't chase the market. The market will chase them. Part 9. Placement proves conviction. Price can fool anyone. It rises, it falls, it distracts the crowd with promises of quick wealth. But placement cannot be faked. Placement is conviction, written permanently on the ledger. When you hold through silence, when you position inside corridors before they open, you prove something charts cannot measure. Belief backed by action. The You Are Rich list doesn't record hype. It records conviction. Who placed early, who didn't flinch, who understood rails before the noise. The XRP rich list sharpens that proof. Wallets already aligned with the choke points where quadrillion-scale liquidity must pass. Retail obsesses over entry price. Institutions focus on placement. Because once the flood begins, the difference between 50 cents or $5 vanishes. What matters is being inside the corridor at all. Placement is the final filter. And when adoption erupts overnight, conviction will be the only passport that matters. Part 10. Claim your place before the flood. The flood isn't a theory. It's rehearsed, measured, and waiting for clarity. When the switch flips, quadrillions don't ask permission. They surge. And in that moment, it won't matter what chart you watched, what rumor you followed, or what headline you read. The only thing that matters is placement. Were you already inside the corridor? Or were you outside watching it pass? The You Are Rich list shows who claimed their place early. The XRP rich list proves, on-chain, exactly which rare wallets hold the choke points when the flood arrives. You don't claim your place after the water rises. You do it before. Because once it starts, there is no catching up. Placement isn't prediction, it's preparation. And when the hidden corridors open, the only question will be, did you already claim your place, or did you wait too long? If you're still here, you're not like the crowd. Billions will never hear this message. They'll keep chasing noise, chasing charts, chasing rumors. But you stayed. That already makes you rare. Now it's your turn to act. Comment below. I claim my corridor to show you're one of the few preparing before the flood. Share this video with a friend who still thinks adoption takes years. Help them see what happens when hidden corridors open overnight. And subscribe to XRP Today USA. Turn on the bell so you don't miss the next signal before the crowd even knows it exists. Placement is proven by action, and your action today decides your place tomorrow. So hold your conviction, hold your corridor, because when adoption erupts overnight, you won't be chasing the flood, you'll already be inside it.